A senator told the Secretary of State she wasn't angry, just disappointed. What followed was a pointed reckoning over foreign aid, women's rights, Israel, and America's global leadership.
Thank you, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to get right into it. Secretary Rubio, I'm going to embrace my Jewish mother instincts for a moment. So as a mother, a senator, and a fellow human being, I can tell you that I'm not even mad anymore about your complicity in this administration's destruction of U.S. global leadership. I'm simply disappointed. And I wonder if you're proud of yourself in this moment when you go home to your family, because I've always found you, Senator Rubio, to be a bipartisan, pragmatic partner, a true believer that the U.S. is stronger when we lead with diplomacy and development. You have a strong record on this, but I don't recognize Secretary Rubio. A stalwart support of Israel, you've watched this administration abandon Saudi normalization with Israel in order to pursue business deals. You were once a fierce critic of Vladimir Putin, but you sat idly by as the president berated the elected leader of Ukraine for not capitulating to Russia. And worst of all, you've kneecapped foreign assistance, including programs that you previously championed and made America less safe, less strong, less prosperous in doing so. I know you know this in your heart, and I can't make this point any better than you did yourself in 2019 when you said, anybody who tells you that we can slash foreign aid and that will bring us to balance is lying to you. So with that, I'm just going to move on to my questions. Thank you. And I'm going to talk about international women's issues because during your time as senator, you were a champion of international women's issues. You helped introduce bills that would have codified the Department's Office of Global Women's Issues and Women's Global Development Prosperity Initiative. You supported several bills, including Senator Shaheen's Bipartisan Women, Peace, and Security Act. During your confirmation hearing, you committed to me that you would support women's economic empowerment abroad. And at this year's International Women of Courage Award, you waxed poetically about the administration's support for women abroad. So help me understand how to square your past with your present. You're proposing the full elimination of the Office of Global Women's Issues. You've terminated hundreds of programs that help women and girls. You provided no guidance to the department on whether they should continue to implement the Women, Peace, and Security Act. And I'm still waiting to see your support for women's economic empowerment overseas. How can you dismiss the concerns of women around the world? Do you believe that the data shows that women's economic participation includes greater economic development worldwide and that women's participation in peace negotiations guarantees longer outcomes? And I have a few questions, so I would respectfully ask for a yes or no. Don't you think that women's participation is important and allows for better outcomes?
This is not a game show. I'm not going to ask that with a yes or no. That's an important question. And I can answer it. We're not abandoning women's issues.
So do you believe the Office of Global Women's Issues should be eliminated?
One thing is to eliminate an office. Another thing is to eliminate the function. The function will still exist. It'll be driven at the regional bureaus. So every one of our regions will have someone who's looking at and driving that issue, and right down to the embassy. It remains a priority. The same with the law that you outlined that I supported. This is going to be executed on, but it's going to be executed at the regional level and at the embassy level. And the reason why is because the challenges facing women in Africa are different than the challenges facing women in Central America.
And I have your commitment that you're going to support women around the world, because without the women being able to be successful in their countries, I believe we can't have peace, stability, and our countries move forward.
Sure, and it remains part of our agenda. It's just going to be, the service is still going to be delivered, but it's going to be delivered at the regional and embassy level, not through a standalone office in Washington, D.C.
When will we see the reports on this and how this will be delivered?
Well, this is what we're engaged in with this committee now, which is our reorganization process. We've made an initial presentation to the committees. It's not final. We've received input through the comment period, including from our own building, but also from members of Congress on both sides, and meaning House and Senate. Now we'll come back to you based on all of that input on what we propose to be the final reorganization.
Do you have a timeline when you'll come back? Because I don't want to see women left behind around the world, and I think you'd agree with me. But I'm going to turn on to Israel. If you can give us a timeline of when you're proposing to do this, that would be helpful, and we can maybe come back and revisit it, Mr. Chairman. Do you have a timeline of when?
Sure, we're engaged now. I think we'll owe you a congressional notification here within the next few weeks, which is but all of that is being built on the comment period in which we've taken input from staff and members of this committee as well as in the House.
Thank you. Can I move on to Israel for a second? So the Office of Security Coordinator in Israel, the OSC, was established by President Bush in 2005. The OSC is widely respected, including by the IDF Central Command, for facilitating security coordination between the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli security forces, which has been crucial in preventing terrorist attacks against Israelis. However, it's reported that you plan, again, to eliminate OSC, which I believe, and many others, could lead to further destabilization in the West Bank and threaten Israel's security. So, Mr. Secretary, should the U.S. continue playing a role in facilitating successful security coordination between IDF and Palestinian security forces to safeguard Israeli lives? And if so, do you believe the State Department should continue to maintain the OSC and support it financially?
Yeah, there's news reports every day about things that aren't true. So the only thing that's been discussed about OSC is whether it should be brought under the authority of the ambassador and the embassy.
You're not proposing eliminating. Thank you. We'll move further on this discussion. With my minute left, I'm going to talk about vaccines abroad because Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, we are so proud, has prevented nearly 19 million children's deaths since it was created by providing vaccines to 50 countries. Diseases, they don't know borders. So a small investment from the U.S. can save American lives by stopping outbreaks really before they reach our shores. You were previously a champion of global vaccines, twice leading resolutions in support of continued U.S. investments in these programs. So, Mr. Secretary, again, do you consider vaccines, including for malaria, Ebola, to be life-saving? Given Gavi's proven track record of saving lives, preventing global disease outbreaks that could reach our borders, will you commit to prioritizing continued U.S. support for Gavi?
But we haven't canceled U.S. support for malaria or any of these other communicable diseases and or vaccines. What we have, there are some individual programs that may have been canceled because they weren't being delivered in the appropriate way. All of these functions will continue. The difference now is the function will be happening under the Department of State as opposed to a set-alone entity, which you had very little oversight over, by the way, in this committee, even though we tried in the years that I was on it with USAID. And I don't want to, I may respond to one point you made just because I'm curious. We have not abandoned Saudi normalization with Israel, as you pointed. The Saudis are the ones that have expressed their inability to move forward on it so long as the conflict is happening in Gaza. But we would love to see normalization.
You know, when it comes to the Saudis and normalization, and we can have this I'd be so happy to have you in my office or come to your office and talk about this. It was quite apparent on the last trip that the president was more interested in making business deals and trying to move forward peace in the region. It's not just about the business deal. There's a lot going on, and there is pressure to bear. But we did receive a list, I just want to say for the record, that showed Gavi was terminated. And so if you could send something to show that it's turned back on, we'd be glad to see that. I know I'm over my time.
Senator Scott.
When Jacky Rosen confronted Secretary of State Marco Rubio, she framed it personally before making it political. Invoking her Jewish mother instincts, Rosen expressed disappointment in what she called his complicity in weakening U.S. global leadership. The strategy was deliberate. Contrast Rubio's Senate record as a bipartisan internationalist with what she argues is a sharp departure in executive office. Rosen highlighted Rubio's past support for diplomacy, foreign assistance, and strong backing of Israel, then juxtaposed it with current policy shifts, from stalled Saudi-Israel normalization to criticism of Ukraine policy posture. She suggested that long-standing principles of deterrence and alliance management were being subordinated to transactional politics. The core question: has strategic consistency been replaced by short-term deal-making? A major flashpoint centered on the proposed elimination of the Office of Global Women's Issues. Rosen noted Rubio's previous support for women's economic empowerment and the bipartisan Women, Peace, and Security framework. Research consistently links women's participation to stronger economic growth and more durable peace agreements. Her concern wasn't symbolism, it was whether institutional downgrades would erode sustained implementation. Rubio responded that the function would remain but be absorbed into regional bureaus rather than housed in a standalone office. That distinction matters in bureaucratic politics. Standalone offices signal priority, funding protection, and centralized accountability. Folding responsibilities into broader structures can streamline operations or diffuse focus. The tension reflects a broader debate over reorganization versus retrenchment. Rosen also pressed on the future of the Office of the Security Coordinator in Israel, originally established under George W. Bush in 2005. The office has facilitated coordination between Israeli and Palestinian security forces, widely credited with reducing violence in the West Bank. Rubio denied plans to eliminate it, framing discussions as structural realignment rather than withdrawal of support. Finally, vaccines and global health funding took center stage. Rosen pointed to Gavi's track record preventing millions of child deaths and containing outbreaks before they cross borders. Rubio maintained support for core programs, but acknowledged restructuring oversight. At issue is whether reorganization preserves capacity or gradually diminishes it. In foreign policy, continuity often determines credibility as much as rhetoric. If America's role in global leadership, women's empowerment, Israel's security, and vaccine diplomacy matters to you, stay engaged. Share this breakdown, subscribe to Democratic Lens, and follow the decisions shaping how the United States shows up on the world stage.